Hello, LaSalle fans. Bob Long here. We got our summer series underway, and we are so happy to be joined by offensive line coach for the LaSalle Explorers, Mark Schmidt. Mark, thanks for joining us here on a lovely day in July. But before you know it, it's going to be high school football season in late August.
No doubt at all. And it's coming to us early August. We got a week and finish this week, get next week, and we're at it. So we're excited. And year two is already here, and we're ready to go.
We're recording here on the 22nd of July, and tell us, schedule-wise, what comes up. There's a heat acclimation process. I know that you guys haven't been doing nothing all summer, so what comes next, and how have you gotten to this point?
Well, we'll have Brett gave us next week. We'll kind of, to ourselves, give the kids time off to just kind of relax and gather themselves up. Hay's in the barn by then, so to speak. So, and then heat acclimation is a 1 week process where we have to have X amount of hours documented. We're pretty much acclimated to what we work out on the field here. We do all our speed stuff mid afternoon. So if we're not ready for the heat, well, we're not going to be ready. But no, the PIAA says we have to do it, so we do it, and it's a step-by-step process. So it's very workable for us. And then the next week will be 2 days, and then we'll finish up with a scrimmage here with the Chamonix, and then the next week is game week for Pittsburgh.
Can't wait. We'll get into that over the course of the interview here, but let's take a step back. You spent some time with the program in the mid-20 teens. You returned last year, and this is your second year back with the program. So why? Why come back to LaSalle?
Well, the year I left the Chamonix, I really didn't have any plans. And then out of the blue in mid-May, Drew, Brett's dad, was the head coach then. He called me and needed a line coach.
And this is what year, Mark?
That was 2015. You're dating me. And I came here and just liked the whole setup. I liked everything about it. And more importantly, working for Drew and then working with Brett. Brett kind of was running the offense back then. And got to know him real well. And then the next year, Drew left. So then I went down to Imhotep for the last 8 years before that. And then this past year, last year, I guess, Brett got the job, talked to me about coming up here and doing some things. And it's closer to me. I'm an Ambler and allows everything to just kind of be a little simpler. And I've really kind of embraced the challenge of trying to come up here and work with him and handle the offense together and have, the way he does things, the way he calls plays. It's just fun. So he gave me a lot of responsibility. I've relied on his, he did a tremendous job with the transition here because he knew the place so well and knew the people, knew the layout, knew everything about it. And it's just allowed things to just be very smooth transition. And then last year was kind of fun. And then, but I left a bit sour taste. And now, I just told you before we got started, you did a great job saying goodbye to the seniors and then setting the bar for this year. And we've been going at it ever since.
You sure have. And how exactly did he say goodbye to the seniors? Maybe you can walk us through some of those key contributors.
Well, I think the cool part about it was, and we didn't honestly notice it until we were just sitting around the table talking about it. Not one guy left. We didn't have one player quit, let alone a senior. And we actually had 2 or 3 seniors join the program this past year, wanting to give it a shot. And kind of used us, as we found out, as a trial basis kind of a thing. And they stuck with it, and they were huge impact guys. And these guys were great. Gavin Miller, all those kind of guys. And they all just accepted their role. And we just had a very fun, great transition and a really fun and exciting first year.
That's terrific. What are some of the similarities, we'll call it, from how Brett runs things to, I know you had a great relationship with Drew when he was coaching the program, father like son. Are there similarities? Are there differences to how they run things?
Both are pretty hardline guys. They're no nonsense. They're very personable. They both get their point across very well and succinctly. Drew's kind of old school a lot of ways. Brett's a little bit more up to date because, he's just kind of a little bit younger and has a son coming through the program, so he's sensitive to more things and asks, and looks for feedback and fights for leadership and fights for those guys to represent our program, and his whole way of handling things is just marvelous.
Mark Schmidt's with us here, the offensive line coach for LaSalle High School football. Big season ahead of you guys. What is the challenge on your end of, specific to the offensive line, rebuilding that depth year over year? Last year you had certainly some junior contributors, and a lot of those guys do return, but as you know, just as important is forming a two deep, because now these juniors become seniors and they'll be off to college next year. What is that challenge to build that line up in the depth year over year?
Well, I think that's probably our biggest challenge we have on our offense, almost our team, because we have 5 guys that played last year. We had 7 that rotated. I had a couple guys, and then of those 7, 2 graduated. So we were able to remove Jacob Jackson to center for Seamus, and that left Danny Lawyer at right tackle, and then we Zach Mangan left, and that left the Chris Perneski at left guard. So all those guys are kind of have a lot of similarity, but behind them, we have some youth and then experience, and that's really big for me. That's my huge deal this whole off season, is to make sure we get those younger guys as much up to speed and knowledgeable as they can, so they can hit the ground running and just try to play as much football, because so much happens. I mean, there's so much on the line of scrimmage, and so much that we do on the line of scrimmage that they've got to be in tune. They've got to be sharp, and it's tough enough for being a returning starter, let alone a young guy. And there's a lot of pressure to perform here, because we've got a great quarterback. And last year our biggest issue I think I had was our run game. We did not run the ball very well at all, and we're very powerful. We're very strong, and we've improved on that significantly this year. And that's been our focal point since that day that I met with those guys. I said our deal has got to be, we have to have a much more physical attitude on the line of scrimmage, and that's been our deal. And strength-wise, size-wise, we've improved on both ends, and having our 2 of the running backs from last year back, and then having Xavier Nelson back full go, gives us some really good depth and some really good opportunities there to establish that run game and take a little pressure off Gavin and Joey and JP and those other guys. So, it makes it more fun of a game to play.
What are the specifics? I get it. Getting bigger, stronger, getting contributors back from the tailback position. Great. What are some of those specifics that you're teaching and drilling into the guys as to create that rushing? Because it's not just running downhill and blocking, right? There's schematics to it. What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, our technique has got to improve. I mean, I think last year, as I said to you, Bob, I mean, we were strong enough to hold on. I mean, we were kind of really trying to hold on to the line of scrimmage. Now we really got to take a hold of the line of scrimmage and really assert ourselves more. That's got to be our personality. And running off the ball and coming off the ball and really working together to really get that push and create seams. And then, you get that defense wanting to stop the run game. And then you got the guys that you have, and then you look at who's back there throwing it, to play action game off of that. Brett, he's been really harping on making sure we're good at that stuff.
You talked about Jacob Jackson moving from tackle to center, Lawyer moving out to that right tackle position. I have to imagine there are certain skill sets that are important to being a center, important to being a guard, important to being a tackle. From your seat, what does that look like? What makes a great tackle versus a guard versus a center?
Well, the tackles, you want some length, you want some footwork. They've got to handle, and who we play on our schedule, which you'll talk to, I'm sure, about here in the future and now, is who we're playing and who's out there. I mean, my goodness, I think our first 4 games we're playing against a power 4, at least one defensive end, and then another one in defensive lineman. So we're playing 2 or 3 every week. So, it's inside and outside. But for tackle, it's really got to be a guy that can really understand, angles and handling things that way, and inside in the garden center, those guys, there's a lot of things they work together on to try to, scan the linebacker scheme and be able to handle the first level and then work their way up to the next level. And, with doing it, staying square and good technique. And then when you're strong, you're able to do that. When you're not very strong, that's kind of when you're kind of surviving and not progressing. So, and then obviously we're doing it. There's so important for us. So
and I'm sure the short answer is because Seamus Pankerton graduates, why you need a center, but why Jacob Jackson at center? What are the qualities that he has?
Everybody respected Jake from the day he got here. Jake was 233-pound right tackle for us. He's now a 260-pound center. And he's just got bigger, stronger. He's very intelligent. He loves football, and he embraced the challenge. I talked to him, Coach and I brought him in the office and talked to him about the importance of taking this position, just similar to the way we did with Grayson. And it was like, hey, his role to move to left tackle. And we felt he was the key to our whole offense. And he's embraced that. And he studies film. He and I talk a lot about things together. We spend a lot of time doing some things, off to the side that could help improve it, because he's quick to the learning curve. He's got to do this as a senior because he never played center before. So, and I love the kid. He's an absolutely terrific young man, and he's embraced the challenge, and I can't wait to see him play.
Getting to 268 from 233, it's a multi-year process, no doubt, but you're also in charge, along with Joe Leitner, with the weightlifting program here, the nutrition program. I'm curious if you can give us a look behind the curtain there, what the young men have been doing, and the process of getting from a 253 to a 268 at that position.
Oh, okay. And I think that all kind of got started the first week we got in.
Last year.
Last January. Our goal was, early on, to get big and strong. We didn't really worry about the speed part. We wanted to get as big and strong, so we talked a lot about diet, proper diet, eating, having an extra meal if we need to gain the weight, what we're eating with protein and everything like that going on. And, the whole protein shake and the whole concept of all that, carbohydrates, good carbs versus bad carbs and all that.
What's a good carb and what's a bad carb?
You tell me. I mean, for a young guy, getting away from McDonald's versus, rice is, but they've done that. And we slowly, it wasn't a thing we wanted to do within a week or 2 weeks. It was month to month. Let's gain a pound or two every month, or every 2 weeks we gained a pound or two, and that'll add up. And that put on that 12 and 13 pounds of good weight for these guys. And then the weight room, we really just cranked up the intensity. We put guys in groups, and they're in charge of each other, and they know each other's lifts, and they push each other, and then we hold them to the line. Joe does a good job of setting the programs, and we do the groups, and then my job is to make sure there's good intensity and good leadership in each squat rack, and then I post and I chart the gains of where we are weight-wise and where we are strength-wise. And yesterday was phase one of our testing, and we made some really good jumps, and a lot of guys really improved. And Brett's happy, so if he's happy, I'm happy, and the kids, with all that comes confidence too. Bob, that's the thing. I mean, when you get stronger, it's football, you get confident, and now you can just go play football and do your job and not worry about, the little things, and, worry about sizing up your guy. Now you can just go out and play. And I'm a big believer in that. And where I came from, we had strong weight programs, and it just sets an edge for you, and it just sets a standard for where you want to start.
One of the young men that made a big blossoming type improvement, and quite frankly a position change, is your left tackle, Grayson Mchugh, who from a young man that did not play a snap at left tackle at the high school level until August of 2024 to one of the top linemen and players at any position in the entire country, now a Notre Dame commit. Maybe you can walk me through that year.
What a crazy year and a half it's been for him, huh? And for us too. I mean, to see him blossom, and then number one, to see him accept the what we asked of him. And
Now, what exactly did you ask of him from a position change standpoint, and when did you ask him?
well, he was a solid player. Looking at the other film, but when we looked at the current offensive line, we were really in dire straits of having quality guys and having enough guys to really have a good offensive line. And he was a great candidate to put at left tackle. I mean, he was a good defensive end. I thought he was okay tight end, but I thought he could grow into with his basketball background and just meeting the guy and his maturity and his body that was going to continue to grow, and meeting his mom and dad. His dad's a big guy, so he knew he was going to grow into it. And he just accepted the challenge, and we said, listen, you do what we ask you to do. The opportunities for you are going to be there. And he did it. And it's just that simple. I mean, let's not get too crazy about it. He dove in. I got him in touch with Jimmy Morrissey. Jimmy talked about his diet when he was here and what got him to the pros. He has been playing that game and been doing the extra work. And I think he's 287 pounds right now. And he weighed 209 when we talked to him.
Wow.
In our conversation. And last year he played about 240.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's moving better now than he was last year. So, and he had a great day yesterday in testing. So he's now really, we're excited about him, obviously, and want to try to let him just kind of get out there and do his thing. So.
Could you share more about that connection with Jimmy Morrissey? And just for the LaSalle community, most of you guys know who he is at this point, but terrific player on both sides of the ball at LaSalle for many years, then walked on at the University of Pittsburgh, earned a scholarship, was an all-ACC center, and then ended up at multiple stops and still is, I believe, still in the NFL.
Yeah, he's with the Giants.
Yeah.
And, Jimmy was a junior when I got the job here, and Jimmy was playing guard, and then after the Ferguson game, we moved him to center.
Mm-hmm.
And then he took that because he was a lot like Jake, very smart, very dedicated, very leadership oriented. And he took the O-line under his wing, and he got going with it, and that was his future. So we've been able to keep a really nice relationship throughout the whole process too, his Pitt process and throughout. So it was easy to make it work because he's on my phone, and and they've known each other. So those two guys really blended and got along great. And there's Jim Orson's one of the finest guys I know. And there's so much of Grayson and Jimmy. I think he really quietly wants to prove that he's going to be. He's going to be he wants to be a really good player, and I think that's the best part about him. I mean, he's a little surprised by all the attention, but
Sure.
He has the measurables, and they see what he's capable of. And the best part about him is it's all ahead of him. I mean, everything he did last year was for the first time. There was no bad. There were no bad habits.
Right.
So we had to just start from the beginning and go and improve on that. And we watched a lot of film in the off season and of all the guys. And what do they have to do when I'm not around? When they're on their own, what can they do to make themselves better? To speed up the learning process. And they've all done that.
And I'm sure that Grayson is not a finished product.
No.
How could you be just your second year playing the position?
Totally.
But what are those things? What is the next step for Grayson?
I think Grayson rolling off, getting off the ball. Grayson was more of a position blocker kind of guy. But now, again, like I said, with his strength and his size now, I think we really spent a lot more time of trying to time everything together, coming off the ball and delivering that punch and running people off the football. Because a lot of his stuff's one-on-one. On the perimeter, and we feel very confident having him out there handling that back end for Gavin, and Gavin feels the same way. He feels very confident having him there. So that's a plus. And then really, I think more of a finisher. I think he tries too hard sometimes to do the little things as opposed to just letting his whole body take over and just knock the crap out of somebody. That's like I said, keep it simple. Get on that guy, stay on that guy, and put him on the ground. That's the fun part.
I'm sure what's been fun, in addition, is, I know you said surprised by it, but all that attention. I'm sure you were looped into it.
Oh, yeah.
His head coach, Brett Gordon, was looped into it. A family decision, a terrific decision to go to Notre Dame.
Yeah. I mean, Brett handled everybody's recruited tremendous. I mean, he was a busy guy. I mean, I don't know how he did it, but because these guys were high-level guys. I mean, Joey and him, and you look at JP, and you look at Dez, and you look at, Gavin. There's a lot of conversations that had to be had, and a lot of conversations with parents and coaches and such. And but Grayson in particular, everybody was just excited. They loved the guy when they met him as a person. They loved the guy when they saw him as a player, and then they watched the film and see where he is and what's already built into his body. So because of the basketball background and the tight end and DN background, he's kind of morphed into that left tackle that people play now. So I'm glad he's on our team. I'll take him, Joe.
Absolutely. So the rest of the offensive line, before we move on, right, you talked about having it too deep, and Drew Sorge has been a big part of things. We talked about Danny Lawyer, Berneski as well, should be a good addition to the line. What would you like to say about those guys that are going to round out that starting five?
Danny's probably been one of the most improved guys in the weight room all year. I mean, he's really stepped up. Danny has decided to make football priority. Danny was kind of a little bit of a goofball, kind of he was one of the happy-go-lucky guys. He was one of those kind of people, but he liked football and he wanted to be good. And then he realized he had an opportunity to be a guy and be a real important guy, and that was, I think he accepted that. And now Drew and Chris, they're our best-looking guys we have right now. I mean, Grayson's Grayson, but I mean these guys are 6'2", 6'3". They're 285, 286 pounds, and they are two strong young men. And both those guys, Drew got his playing time as a nose guard as a freshman, moved over to right guard, and he loves it. And Chris kind of worked his way into it, so he felt himself through a little bit more. He was a little bit more, I don't want to say he was timid, but he was a little more apprehensive. Now we're getting both those guys to come off the ball as offensive guard, along with everybody else pushing. And it's allowing us to have a really good base of an offensive line right now. And we're trying to work on their positives and what they're good at. Like, we want Berneski to get their feet moving and get up into people. Drew just wants to manhandle people, and he just works on his technique and leverage. Because he's like Grayson. He never played offensive line. So it's kind of cool. And hopefully, if I don't screw it up, these guys will turn into a really good unit. And then the depth behind it is really important. And we've been able to take one or two from defense, but we don't want to really do that because we don't want to weaken that defensive front either. Jamel Williams is obviously a guy real talented who can help us, but then again, he's now starting nose guard. So you don't want to start to do that with who we're playing. You don't want to start, diluting the water, so to speak. So we've got some other guys, Nick Stampone and LJ Tiller, and then Charlie Pickett. And those guys are coming along and doing a really good job for us. So,
and in terms of sending guys both ways, you mentioned it to the point. You don't want to do that because of the teams you're playing.
Right.
Some of those teams you're playing will be forced to do that. And that's where you guys can start to take advantage in the second half, I have to imagine, is part of your thought process.
Totally, 100%. And that's our plan, is to really, get after people. I mean, the thing I really like after 1 year being back with Brett is I missed how he has such a feel for the game and how he goes about it. And, he sees teams that are kind of slacking, and then he turns it on, and we speed up the tempo, and we get going, and our guys recognize that, and we get going, and then they get more tired, and then all of a sudden, we're making some big moves down the field, and all of a sudden, we're able to get the ball in the end zone. So, I mean, he has that feel and knack for the game, and that's so important. And if you start seeing guys that are playing guys on both ends, I think that was a huge deal in the Malvery game for us. We got those guys in the fourth quarter, and, we had opportunities to put it away, but we didn't. And then we finally had, at the end, I think we got them when they were, a little bit one step too tired. And we were punch one in and hang on and then make a key play at the end on defense to win it. And, those are the ones you want to win. You want to do that because you have an advantage. We don't want to be at a disadvantage this year because our schedule won't let us. And our expectations won't let us either. So.
Well, and it is an expectations thing, isn't it? Because nobody on this field, nobody in that locker room, but a lot of people around the state were penciling in Harrisburg in week 0 to beat you guys, and then they were focused on that next game when Harrisburg was going to go play Harrisburg's version of Bishop McDavid.
Right.
Nobody's sleeping on you guys this year.
No.
And you guys are going to go play the state runners-up. And
Brett made that very clear in our meeting with them the 2 days after the prep, and then we reminded them as many times as we possibly can after a week. I mean, our game is circled. We're not just on the roster now. We're a team everybody has to pay attention to, and we know that, and that's fine because that's kind of where we want to be. But the best part about that is Rest provided the expectations and giving us coaches the opportunities to do what we need to do, and if we just stay more confident in what we're doing, then we don't need to be feeling any kind of pressure. We just need to go out and have confidence in what we're doing and do it together to the best of our ability. And then, hey, I kind of like where we're going to be.
And the young men have responded to that message as well?
Totally. Very much so. Real excited about that right now.
We're very excited as well. We're excited to be alongside you the whole way, broadcasting your games this year.
This is a pretty cool environment, man. It's a good idea. It's big time. So
doesn't happen if you guys aren't up for it.
Well, I'm up for it.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Thanks for having me.
Have a great year. We'll be following you.
Thanks, Bob. I really appreciate that. Thank you.